And we're live. Yeah.
Hey.
Well, hey, welcome everyone to another episode of React Native Mornings. It's great to see everyone logging in now for episode 4. I'm excited. While people are logging on, I think, go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. I know Gant already started that train for us. And Derek, I'll go first. I'm Mazen and I live in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm going to be your host for today. I'm excited about this show. I have Gabriel Donadel from Expo joining me today to chat all things Expo SDK 54. And before we begin, Gabriel, where are you joining us from?
Joining from Brazil, south of Brazil, a smallish island called Florianopolis. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And Frank says he's joining from the better Carolina. I think that's South Carolina, he thinks, but North Carolina is the better one. So, but yeah, Brazil, beautiful place. I want to visit it one day. I have an aunt from Belo Horizonte, so excited to hopefully visit there one day.
Yeah, it's a great place, definitely, and it's huge. It's kind of like the States where you have like huge diversity in type of like, the weather. Like you can have like cold places, hot places, different cultures as well. It's huge. Great place to visit.
That's awesome. So I hear, other than, working on Expo in your day-to-day, you're training for an Ironman for the past year. It's been going on?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
I started doing that, like training for that maybe a year and a half ago. Like everything started like with just racing. Everyone was racing. I do love going out in the streets, and then eventually bought a bike, and then it's just like, just one more sport, right? Why not? Then started swimming, and now I'm I've been chasing this. I'll be doing like a half Ironman, and then the plan is probably next year do the full thing because it's something that you need to train for a long time. But it's a great sport. It's definitely something that get us like a bit out of our places, not so much in the computer. Like you get to train every day, so also really good to not stress too much. And I just really enjoy training every day.
So you run, you bike, and you swim? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started a bike, you bought a bike, and then all of it just downhill from there. You're like, all right, now I just need to learn how to swim longer distances. And then you're like, oh wait, I run already. I'll just join this.
Yeah. And I don't know, like it's the kind of challenge that like you see a bunch of people doing. It's not common, but it's not like impossible, and you also see like elder people doing, or people that are like 80 and they complete it. So it's like, I'm in like mid-20s right now, so why not give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
And
what's the distance? It's a long distance, right?
It's called 70.3 because in total is 70.3 miles, the half Ironman. So it's in kilometers, which is the one I'm used to, is like it's 1.9 kilometers, which is a little over a mile of swimming. Then you cycle 90 kilometers, which is, let me think, it's like almost 60 miles.
Yeah.
And then and then you do like a half marathon.
Wow. Okay.
After that,
I think the main question we all want to know is, are you going to get a tattoo when you finish?
Just after I finish the full thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So as soon as you cross the finish line, you just sit right there as a tattoo artist, and you're done.
And never sit in a bike again, because like this, the training is it's unbearable. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess as people are logging on, we're talking about Gabriel's Ironman journey, and it's been over a year. We're going to start in a couple minutes. Depending where you are, grab a coffee, grab a drink, join us, and we're excited to have you all here. Gabriel, can you introduce yourself to our audience? Tell us more, about how you got to where you're at in the technology. We can talk about Ironman all day, in my opinion. But how you got to, where you're at Expo, and, what's your day-to-day role?
Yeah, so I've been working now at Expo for almost 3 years. Before that, I was mostly working just using React Native day to day. I used to work in a consultancy, so we used to build apps for basically any type of client. And like at some point, I really wanted to start contributing to open source. I was really lucky that the first person that I contacted asking for tips was Nicola Corti, which now, along with Ricardo, is the one like driving most of the things React Native related in conferences. And he gave me some tips. I started contributing, and yeah, and maybe like after a couple months, I noticed that Expo had an open position, applied, met Brent, met the other guys, and from there, like just started focusing all my time on open source. And yeah, that's basically how I got into like developing React Native and not just using. But I would say that the thing that I like the most is just the community and the open source part of it. And then this is kind of what I started to do at Expo as well. I worked mostly on the SDK side of things, so the open source side. And for, I would say, yeah, the majority part of like this last 2.5 years, I've been mostly involved with the React Native releases / upgrades inside Expo. Doing some work on Dev Client, which is one of our libraries, and then yeah, other than that, I've worked a bit on Expo Orbit as well. This tool for launching simulators and emulators, and
I think Expo Orbit
one,
is Expo Orbit's a cool one to highlight, right? Can you go a little bit into what Expo Orbit is?
Oh.
I think I remember I reached out to you on Twitter right after I had tried it because it had helped me a lot. So yeah, tell us a little bit. What is Expo Orbit?
Yeah, so the idea for Orbit is basically to have a simple way of like launching simulators, emulators, and launching apps that you build directly into the simulator. So basically, if you open EAS, you do a build, you'll see a button like launch with Orbit, and it automatically launches in whatever you want, like in your phone or in your simulator, emulator, or whatever. So it's just this small tool, super simple, that tries to facilitate something that without that you would need to download, drag and drop, and extract. It just makes things a bit easier.
That's one thing I love about you all at Expo. You all are focused on the developer tools, other than making the great Expo software that you make. You also work on great dev tools, like you just mentioned. You'd have to go to the website, click a download button, and then load it on your simulator, or even just on your device, right? You'd have to send it to your device, but you just one click away, right? You push it to EAS is done, you click a button, and it installs automatically for you. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, and I kind of do feel that's our strategy on things. Sometimes the feedback comes from the community, but other times it's just something that it's bothering us internally. Like, oh man, I need to, like, I'm testing, I don't know, like 20 or 30 builds, and then I need to keep downloading and downloading. And then instead of just creating a script, okay, let me create a tool. And that's kind of how that was born. So yeah.
Like a true developer, whenever we're stuck on something, we create a script or a tool to kind of help us with it. That's awesome. So I guess kind of before we move on, if you're in the audience, please keep the chat going. Hello to everyone that's kind of joining us here. Keep letting us know where you're joining us from. I see there's a huge audience. Justin, East Coast is the best coast, not the West Coast. Sorry. So tell us about your tech journey a little bit. How did you get to fall in love with tech and then start developing?
Yeah, so like I would say that this was when I was probably 11, 12. Everything started with Blogspot, just like everyone back in the early 2000s. Like, cool thing was having their own blog. So I was a kid at that time, so created my own blog, started to trying to understand how I could customize my Blogspot, like use custom templates. And when and like from that age, yeah, basically wanted to improve a bit more, started to study a few things. And in my school, at least, we didn't have any type of like programming lessons or stuff like that. But when I was, I think it was 13 or 14, it was like the boom of Flappy Bird. And like
Yeah.
when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I really want to do my own custom Flappy Bird style of game. So I watched a few videos, learned some stuff, and then created my game. Like it was called Flappy Dress because it was based on that dress that it was like you could see white or gold or blue and black, something like that. So after that, I actually landed an apprentice job when I was 15, and then like started working in tech from there. At first was with PHP, learned the basics, learned also databases, and then when I got into college, already kind of knew how to program. I did something called information systems, really similar to CS,
Yeah.
but yeah, like in Brazil, it's also really common to work while in college. So like in my second semester, I was already working full time, and yeah, like after that, like you're just doing stuff like this, like working with React Native,
Yeah.
and yeah, kind of how I landed here.
Yeah, I did information systems too in college, so I know exactly what you're talking about. I will say, you mentioning blue and gold has like triggered the chat. Everyone talking about that dress or whatever that went viral. So now there's a huge debate. I'm not going to keep them all up on here, so we'll keep that one in the chat there. But that's awesome. Cool. Well, I think I can't thank you enough for coming onto the show. I'm really excited about this episode. We've grown to use Expo here at Infinite Red with all of our clients, and we love everything that you all do. And release day, which is today for Expo SDK 54, is very exciting because it's almost like that Christmas have you where you get to upgrade you tell your client, hey, I'm not going to work on Jira today. I'm going to upgrade to the latest SDK because here are all the fancy stuff that we're going to get by making this upgrade. So I'm excited for that. That's exactly what I'm going to do probably after this. So again, if you're watching, keep the blue, black, gold conversation going. But also, if you have any questions about SDK 54, please feel free to kind of post them, and Gabriel will be here to help us go through it. All right. There's a lot in this episode. So I think there's a lot in this SDK. So before we kind of go into the SDK, I kind of want to highlight, we have a pre-build for iOS, which we'll kind of dig into further. This is great because it improves our build times, right? I joke about it on React Native Radio, where when the silicon chips for Mac came out, our build got so much faster. So you couldn't say, starting a build, going to get coffee anymore. You almost had to have the coffee machine on your table at that point. And now with this, you officially don't even have time to make the coffee because it'll be that quick to be done, right? We also have liquid glass. If you're like me, who joined iOS 26 on beta 0 and could not use his phone till beta 1 came out, it was not fun. We'll get to see how that kind of affects the UI and what you all are doing to help with that UI. And then, we'll talk about, we're going to upgrade Ignite again, which I love about Ignite. And then we'll talk about the other items in that for you. Now, I think, Gant asks a very good question. Like, what is the main benefit that 54 is bringing to the table that, the previous versions may not have?
So I would say that on Android, there are a few things that are actually indeed necessary. So there's the edge-to-edge functionality that's now enabled by default. It's something that Google is pushing really hard. So yeah, like we need to adapt. On iOS, there is the ability of, again, like reaching all those customers that really want the liquid glass feel. I think like there's this small percentage of people that really want to test the newest features, and usually those users are the ones that are most vocal. So that's why it's so important to really support that on day one. And then we have overall some improvements on on stuff like Dev Client, which was completely rewritten to be more reliable. We also have some other general improvements on stuff like Expo UI, which is basically one of the libraries that allows you to access Swift UI and Jetpack Compose directives. And I would say there's just some more solidity. We've been working on the Brownfield area as well. So enterprise companies can adopt Expo easier. And yeah, I would say that that's basically the main selling points
Yeah,
of
I
SDK
think
54.
you highlighted two there that I think are big. We talked earlier about improving developer experience. So the dev tool improvements, our stack trace, you don't have to
Oh,
fight
yeah.
through, what does this actually mean? Or, or basically just be like, all right, thank you, stack trace. I'm going to go figure it out for myself kind of thing, right? It actually gives you component code in your stack so you get to know, see your component that's actually causing the issue. So much easier to understand. And then you also mentioned brownfield. Or enterprise specifically. That's very important. The larger Fortune 500 companies or whatever you want to call them can't come to the table and say, well, I can't use React Native, or Expo doesn't really work for me because of XYZ. This unlocks it. I think that's a very big one. The selling point of enterprise is big. Now, we mentioned a little bit about precompiled, and I kind of joked about how much faster it makes things. How's that going to change my day-to-day work?
Yeah, so I do want to calm down people. Like precompiled, it's huge, it's big, and it's really important for a few reasons. But depending on which libraries you have installed, the effect might not be immediate because the only thing that's precompiled right now is React Native, right? So if you have just React Native installed, yes, your build will be like 20, 30 times faster. If you have other libraries that depend on C++, something like reanimated gesture handler, you'll still have like builds that take a couple minutes. But that's for now, because it could very much be something like what we are doing on Android, where you just pre-build libraries as well. Expo on Android, for example, is pre-built. So yeah, like instead of building the C++ in your machine, we just download the artifacts, and the same can be done for other libraries that take a while to build. So in the future, this should be faster for everything. And the biggest selling point as well of precompiled, which is not as sexy as everyone wants with the build times, is the ability, or I mean, like getting one step closer to dropping Cocoa pods. So SPM will be the future in React Native. We will eventually migrate to that. That's like Cocoa Pods has been in this maintenance mode for almost a year now. So yeah, like pre-build just helps towards this. And yeah, so
for our listeners that aren't familiar, can you tell us what is Cocoa Pods and what is SPM that would be moving towards? Yeah.
Yeah. So doing a quick comparison, the same way that we have npm, yarn, which are package managers for JavaScript libraries, there are package managers for native libraries as well. So on Android, this would be Gradle, which manages your dependencies, and on iOS, we have CocoaPods, which is what React Native uses. But Apple released a couple years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, something called Swift Module Managers. So and Swift Package Manager, sorry. And yeah, SPM is basically this newer alternative. And yeah, what everyone wants to migrate, because Cocoa Pods right now is in this maintenance mode. There isn't really a reason for the team that created Cocoa Pods to keep improving on it, because SPM kind of covers everything that Cocoa Pod was doing.
Yeah. Okay. And I think we talked about kind of offloading most of that precompiled locally, right? Will that also help us in the CI perspective too?
Yeah. We can expect, for example, it really depends on your build, but realistically, it's something like 30%, 40% faster, which in terms of CI, depending on how many builds you have, especially if you pay by the minute, it's definitely a like significant improvement.
I mean, financially, for smaller companies, that's huge. And for companies that want to do it on pull request or on push, essentially trigger something, there's huge there. We have a lot of questions kind of coming out about the precompiled stuff. So let's kind of stick on it a little bit, because I think it's the one most people are really excited about right now. Are there any debugging implications? Because now everything's precompiled. Can I, will the stack traces be useful to me?
Yes, but there are some downsides depending on which kind of developer you are, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if you're developing libraries and you need to debug internally React Native, that's not really an option for you. You would need to build from source, but that's mostly when you are developing locally, because if you're on CI, you don't need to debug React Native. You will still get the stack trace, you still get the same full errors. Everything is the same as the end user, right? The developer in this case. But if it's really similar to what we have right now on Android. What you won't be able to do, for example, is to patch package React Native and use the pre-builds. If you want to patch React Native, which not recommending, it's just one scenario that sometimes happen. You would need to disable that. But in terms of debugging, it should be fine, and you can still see the source code and all. So
okay,
it just builds faster.
Yeah, and kind of going off of Gan's question, there are trade-offs depending on your development style and what essentially you're doing within that. So if you need to patch, I think recently we had to kind of had a discussion about accessibility labels within text. So that kind of seemed to, something you might want to patch in the short term while it gets kind of pushed, fixed upstream. Marvelous asked the question about why did you all choose iOS to favor iOS more? My guess is in this version, precompiled is only focused on iOS, but precompiled was previously there for Android. Is that correct?
Yes. Precompiled has been, I would say, maybe 6 versions or 7 versions already on Android. And the reason for focusing more on the iOS side is because on Android, there are improvements as well, but there isn't much that we can demonstrate. There's actually one really nice feature that was just merged in yesterday on 0.81 on Android, which is a new flavor. So you can now build for, it's called debug optimized. So this will be a flag that you can build where basically your C++ will be built in release mode, even if you're running the whole app in debug mode. And this will potentially lead to up to 30% performance improvements in debug mode when you're doing animations with Reanimated. It's still kind of in an experimental phase, but this is something that's we can really demonstrate in the live stream right now. So that's mostly why we've chosen the iOS side.
Cool. Okay. So let's go into it.
Sure.
Let's start our demo piece kind of going through all the different fancy features of 54. I'm excited to see this.
Cool. Let me share it. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, that should be up now.
Perfect. Cool. So I'll just start simple. Let's create a new app. We can use Ignite for that. I know you guys in the docs usually call it pizza, so mega pizza. And so SDK 54 is not officially out yet. It will be out as we speak, so maybe in an hour or so. So for this, what we'll do is basically create a new app, which will be using SDK 53, and then we go through the update process, which if you already use Expo, it's relatively simple. And here I'm just going through the normal process, selecting the options. I will indeed install my dependencies. And in this case, I want to demonstrate some new features on Expo Router, so I'll choose to use Expo Router. And so For this, what we'll be doing is just using the command to install and fix the dependencies. So once Yarn finish installing, this should be quick. We can go through this process. Right here in the right side, I just have an app, a simulator running iOS 26. So if you want to try out the liquid glass things that we'll be talking later on, it's important to highlight that you do need to have Xcode beta installed. Xcode 26 is not officially out yet. So
I think on
you need to install the beta.
like 5 days or so. I think September 15th they're releasing it or something like that. It was in the announcement yesterday. So
oh yeah.
It's very liquid glassy. I remember I had to like there's a way to like dim it down a little bit, and I did that on my device.
Yeah. Like I think you can kind of do like this. Yeah, and then it's last mad.
But the clear one, I don't know how this passed accessibility, because I remember like my picture was like had like a white section to it, and I couldn't see some of my apps, and I was just like, how did this pass accessibility? But
yeah. Did you actually like this new design? Because to me it still feels a bit weird, to be honest. I don't love it. I kind of get it, but I don't love it.
I think just like all of these like big changes that Apple does every now and then, everyone's like totally against it, and then it just takes, I don't know, a couple months maybe, and then you're back on it. So it'll grow on me, I have a feeling.
So I'll just quickly show up here in the left.
You can just zoom in.
Just
2 pips maybe. There we go. That's perfect.
Cool. So this basically just created the default Ignite app. Before starting to run anything, I will just run the command to update this. So it's basically Expo install, and we'll install Expo next in this case, because SDK 54 is not officially out yet. But in your case, in a couple hours, you can just run like Expo latest. And
we'll include the docs once they're available in like the description of this video, so you can kind of see what command you would run. But you would omit the @latest essentially.
Yeah. So this is one error happening with build properties. It's mostly just because of template. So what you need to do is just go into app.json and add the plugin to here. And so now it will work as expected. We can just...
What specifically is build properties? Yeah, what specifically is this solving for build properties?
Okay, so this is basically an edge case where it can't automatically write to the app config or app.json. App.json is a file where you can modify how your native code will be generated. So basically, there are a bunch of properties that you can enable or disable. Let's say that you want to disable the new architecture, which, by the way, this is the last SDK that will support it, the old architecture. You would go through here and use this library called Expo build properties and pass here a parameter to disable the new architecture. So, for example, in here, it's auto-completing to use frameworks. But that's basically the idea for app.json. It's configuring your native builds.
Awesome.
So
because CNG is omitting our iOS and Android folders, initially, this is how you would kind of rewrite them on build time.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So I'm just removing the iOS and the Android folders here because I'll regenerate those. So basically now, for us to run, there's one more thing. You'll notice that this bump it reanimated to V4. Reanimated V4 right now still requires you to manually install React Native worklets. So we will just run npx expo install React Native worklets. This will install the appropriate version as well. And from there, that's basically it. Like we are already running SDK 54. I do want to demonstrate the time difference between using precompiled React Native and building from source. By default, precompiled are enabled. And there's one note here. This is only enabled in new architecture, so you can't use precompiled React Native with old architecture. So there's one more reason to migrate. And yeah, so basically, let me trigger a build. I'll just build on EAS, and let me check how our EAS.json file is. I do want to build for iOS on the simulator, so I'll use the preview profile. And I do want to add one more thing because we'll be using liquid glass. So I want to add inside the iOS, I want to change the image of the machine that we're using. I want to use the image that has Xcode 26. So that's macOS Sequoia with Xcode 26. We can save this, and I can run EAS build iOS and profile preview. This, if it's a new project, it will ask you to create a new project on EAS, and we can just follow with yes for everything.
Nice. Yeah. You're mentioning a lot of new architecture and old architecture. I think we're at the phase, for me personally, where it's architecture and old architecture, right? Because
that's right.
You mentioned that this is probably, and even Meta announced it recently. They're working on, I believe it's the next version. So we're in 81, so 82, and then you all for 55. Essentially, legacy architecture will be code will be removed, and that's something that I kind of want to talk to you about later on, because I know the way you and I met was through the React Native release team for version 77. So, and that's something that I know you do a lot of with working on the release team.
That's right. Yeah. So on the new architecture side, this is something that I don't know. Like it's been talked for so long that I think people kind of eventually forget about it. But yeah, so right now everyone should already have the new architecture enabled. But yeah, so starting from React Native 0.82, which is already in the RC phase, you can no longer disable the new architecture. So your app will, like, even if you tried setting it to disable it, it will still be running the new architecture. And yeah, so it's great time to try updating and still post if you have any issues on the new architecture, because then potentially those can be fixed, and the next time you'll be able to fully migrate.
I think that's important. If anyone finds a library that is not architecture compatible, new architecture in this case, please, bring it to the forefront, whether it's in the package repository or even just to the Expo team, to the Meta team, so we can kind of get through that blocker. Because I believe at this point, the apps that are being built on EAS, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a very high percentage of them that are already on the new architecture. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's over 75%.
Yeah, which is a great stat. So we're almost there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm running a few commands in here so we can check what's the difference when building from source. So what I'm doing here is to use this property called build React Native from source. It's property of Expo build properties. And with this, it will basically set up a flag inside Cocoa Pods to build it from source. And the command that I'm using is just npx Expo pre-build platform iOS, because I want to double check exactly what's the name of this property. I think I'm passing it wrong. Let me double check this. And in the meanwhile, I think our build, it's almost there. we had small issue on the error boundary of the component. Let me double check what's going on. But yeah, for now, let's reinstall our dependencies. We can run yarn start, and let me check. Okay, yeah, the problem is this. Let me remove it. And
fun live demo.
yeah, and let me double check on the docs. I implemented this a couple weeks ago, and I can't even remember it. So yeah, just a moment. But yeah, talking about the new architecture, I think this is just like, it will just be easier for everyone in terms of library maintainers once we get rid of the old architecture, because that just reduces the surface area that we need to maintain. And a lot of requests are specific to old architecture, and we've been seeing libraries like Reanimated and, for example, Nitro modules, which only support the new architecture. It's getting more common every day. I think React Native Slider as well, just the new architecture. So yeah, it's finally happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're almost there. It's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Just a moment. Properties. Yeah, and let me proceed with building this, because even if we don't demonstrate it, I can start installing pods and all, because we'll be running this locally. I want to quickly demonstrate liquid glass and how you can use it. And yeah, so I'll use really simple demo from my friend Kudo. It's mostly just showing the liquid glass effect and how you can use our Expo UI modifiers to basically use that. So for this, I will install Expo UI and Expo image.
Expo UI is, yeah, if you can tell our listeners what Expo UI is.
Yeah. So Expo UI is basically a wrapper for some really native directives. It's the way that you can access Swift UI and Jetpack Compose right from React Native. And yeah, it's basically our alternative to. Actually, I thought I selected the. Okay, here we are. It's basically our alternative to using those newer directives. React Native historically has been built on top of UIKit, which is basically the fundamental framework on iOS. And for the last 5-6 years, Apple introduced Swift and Swift UI, and we want to have to allow users to access this somehow. So that's basically the idea.
Yeah, and there's some cool components within there. I know for iOS, there's like a bottom sheet, and others like that too.
Yeah. So here I'm just really pasting a simple function. We do need to import some stuff, sorry. But this is using Swift UI, and it uses the same component names that you would use if you're programming in Swift. If you're using Swift UI. So VStack, HStack, this host thing, it's important. It's a wrapper that you need to add around your Swift UI component, so we can measure the height and adapt this to whatever width that you need.
So translating this to React Native, host is almost like a view, right? And then VStack and HStack, that's vertical stack versus horizontal stack. Exactly. So it's almost like doing a view, for horizontal, flex direction row, and then in this case you have spacing 8, so gap 8, sort of thing.
Exactly. And yeah, so with this, and I imagine our library is already finished installing. Cocoa Pods is still installing. It takes a while because it downloads Hermes and now the precompiled React Native, but it's still faster than actually building yourself. And in the meanwhile, let me trigger another build. Yes, build. Okay. Yeah, this should be quick.
So this will be a precompiled build, right?
Precompiled build, and this is a cool thing. This is precompiled by default. Like if we take a look inside our pod file, we'll see that this is basically saying like, yeah, use precompiled React Native core and use React Native precompiled dependencies unless it has been clearly identified not to use it, which would be build React Native from source in here, which is the property that I wanted to use before. So yeah, so iOS, and no, that's not it, and that's true. Okay, finished installing CocoaPods. I actually need to reinstall pods because I installed Expo image and Swift UI, but this time it should be faster. Everything else was already installed. As you see, it's just adding the dependencies that we added. And we can go ahead and open our project in Xcode. So just running few commands. Again, opening it in Xcode beta. If I build this exact same code into Xcode, like the previous version, which was 16, it won't show up as a liquid glass app. 18, I'm sorry, yeah. Same goes for the simulator. I do need to make sure to select the simulator that's using iOS 26. And if not, yes, it would just not work. It would show up as a normal app. I have here some other example apps, but both of those were just mostly tests using the exact same code a few hours ago, which was working, but now live demo, the curse. So
exactly, it's not a live demo. I mean, everyone in our comments is saying that it's not a live demo if something doesn't go wrong.
Exactly, yeah. Cool. Still waiting for the build. Let's see how.
While that's happening, if you can go to the code, I know you had there was a function I wanted to kind of highlight, glass effect. So this is basic. Yeah, if you can kind of talk a little bit about that. And it's wrapped around, let's see, text. So yeah.
Exactly. So in Swift UI, in Expo UI, we have this things called modifiers. And that's the way that you apply effects like padding, margin. And we basically decided to also to treat the glass effect, or like this liquid glass effect thing, as a modifier. So from here, you would be able to basically add this to anything that you want to apply the glass effect. The glass effect, right? Cool. So you have a few different options, and so Apple would allow because basically this liquid glass effect is slightly controllable. So you have like the regular, the one that's a bit more clear, and the identity. You can make it interactive when you drag it around. You can apply a tint underneath it. And let me just check what's failing to install here. Failing to apply the. Okay, so again, it's Expo build properties failing. Let me remove that, and we can keep on. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all good.
Yeah, and this is also a cool tip if you're an iOS developer and gets like this random errors where you can't really read anything. The only thing that really matters is at the bottom. So it's exactly where you'll find like, oh yeah, the error is just this. Yeah. Everything else is just gibberish.
I think while this is working, I kind of want to highlight a couple, like what we've done so far, right? So you started an Ignite app. You did your npx up expo install expo -- fix. Yes. So it does its fixes for you, right? You did at latest in this scenario, but hopefully by the time this video comes out, 54 will officially be out, so you don't have to do at latest, or sorry, at next in this scenario.
Yeah.
When the app was set up, which in this scenario is Ignite, it was still using Expo 53. So the Expo at next bumped us up to 54, and latest React Native also React 19.1 and React Native 81. Then you also had to upgrade Reanimated to V4, which was the new architecture version of it, right? It required React Native worklets as a dependency, completely. And I believe other packages like MMKV is V3 on the new architecture. If you had anything less and you were on the new architecture, wouldn't work, because V3 was built in C++ by Mark Rusavi. And now at that point, you're now also showing us Expo UI glass effect, essentially, like using the Expo UI wrappers that you all have created. How can we see the glass effect on iOS? And also, we're talking about the precompiled, trying to see the difference in timings between the precompiled build versus not. And I think it's also important to know what the different components are that come from Swift UI, because it's the naming is different, right? Like, you're no longer technically building React components, you're building Swift UI component. You're composing Swift UI code, sort of thing. So it almost comes back to, some people always ask, like, how are React and React Native similar? You're technically writing all the same code between React and React Native, except when it comes to the UI piece, right? You can't do divs, P, H1, H2 on React Native. You have to do, views and text and all that. And in this case, we're taking it even a step lower, in this case to the native level, where you're building host, text, VStack, HStack, even lower to kind of get you within that level.
Yeah,
so and error boundary.
Yeah, trying to understand exactly what is missing, but I have also here the Expo UI docs. And the cool thing about this is that it allows you to access some native components that without it, you wouldn't have just like direct access. Stuff like color picker, you won't really depend on the library for that. And you can just use Swift UI, which is usually like a really beautiful component that you just get for free. It's not as customizable as like you building your own, but it definitely has the native look, and it's definitely something that more and more, I would say, that apps are looking to get, instead of just having like the exact same experience on Android and iOS. So,
and even something like date picker, I see date picker there. That's one that I feel like, we're always reaching for those libraries out there to give us date pickers.
Yeah, it's just one thing I want to highlight. This is still in the beta, like not SDK beta, but in the beta moment right now for us. We are still testing a lot, and the APIs are not 100% stable. Like, we might change how we access. And the thing, for example, that we were talking about, liquid, the glass effect, that's the best way that we've found so far, but this may change in the future. It's not as stable.
And I'm sure it's helpful as a listener. If you're listening now and you have the the bandwidth to test it out, it definitely help the Expo team surface any bugs that may come out from there.
So what I think is going on here is just the actual prefix. I think the at may not be working correctly, because it's something about not being able to find the error boundary.
Could we drop the boundary for this scenario?
Yeah, let's remove it. And I don't see where we use it. Oh, we were not using it at all. Okay, that's good. And then
React to more things also probably.
Yeah, that's curious, because like I do have another project where this was working just fine.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, it seems that it's just one small thing. This is okay. It's something in my project. But yeah, we get into the app and we have like this really simple demo, which is basically just an image in the back and two different glass effects. So the regular one, which is in the top, and then the bottom one, which is using the clear variant. We can use the identity as well, which is basically nothing in this case. But yeah, really simple. You can basically apply this to any of the components. This is just random image. That's why it changes.
Yeah.
But if you remove it, then yeah, you no longer get the effect. And yeah, the one cool thing as well is that this is not just in here, but you can explore this with basically any UI kit component as well. We released another library called, this is new one, still under an experimental phase, but it's called Expo Glass Effect. And you basically just add the glass view and the glass container around it, and it will basically create a UI view that applies the glass effect. So really simple as well. Just import the glass view and you can use it, and everything inside it will have this same glass effect. So you're not tied to using Expo UI right now.
How does it work level deeper? Do I need to do like an index.ios and then import my glass effect? So I need to have two different UI components or UIs for iOS versus Android. Is that correct?
It will fall back to a view on unsupported platforms.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah. But this is just for this library, right? For Expo Glass Effect.
Yeah.
For Expo UI, you do need to implement what you want because it's basically using a directive that's specific to one platform.
Yeah.
But yeah, in here it just falls back to a view.
Yeah. Awesome. And if anyone in the audience has any questions around any of this stuff, feel free to keep asking those questions, and we'll bring them up here.
Yeah. One other thing that I want to demonstrate, because it's super simple, is that it's also integrated into Expo Router. So the project that we created is using the Expo Router structure. So let me just create a new screen. Let's call it settings. And so settings screen. It won't show up yet because it's using, I think it's which is the layout by default. By default it's using a slot. So let's change this to use the new we're calling it unstable for now until we are sure about this, but it's called native tabs. And with the native tabs, we get the exact same look as you would get into Swift UI app, right? So just replacing here the slot with our home and our settings, and then we get the nice, newish, fancy bottom bar navigator using the glass effect and the liquid glass effect. And this, of course, if you're on iOS 18, will just default to the normal tab bar. And if you're not using the Xcode 26, same thing.
That's awesome. I will say that's one of the features that I really like of iOS, like liquid glass. It's nifty, like the switcher that you had. It looked really cool when you were moving it. Can you show again the import? So this is part of Expo Router, you said? So it's already integrated.
Already integrated. You don't need to add any other libraries, but it's under the unstable native tabs right now. So basically, we have full instructions that we can link later on. But basically, you import native tabs, and in this case, the icon in the label is just for me to mark this. Yeah. But in here, if we check this is just using the iOS icons. So like if you put ladybug, it will just be ladybug, and normal. Yeah, and then just a label. But yeah, super simple, documented, but still experimental.
Awesome.
Another thing that we added support this time is for the new icon composer. This is a new app that Apple released, and it's an app that it's basically a composer for creating liquid glass-like app icons. So we can start with, let's use the actually, let me create a new document. And by default, it comes with this blue color thing. And if we got the Ignite icon, I think it can get it from the iOS build, probably. Yes, so Breakpoint Finder. Let's drag and drop it inside the new icon composer. It pre-applied this effect, and we can check in, like on WatchOS how it would look like. It's maybe a bit too small. Let me make it 110, and then I don't love this bluish in the background. We can change the group color to maybe a red, something like this. And yeah, super simple. We can edit this, tweak as much as we like. We can make different versions because of the dark mode, the full mode, and the mono. And yeah, if I come here, for example, we could add a slight tint in the mono, and then we can export this as Ignite icon. Let me save in our app, and boom, it creates this .icon file. And then inside my app.json, I can just point the icon to this. So yeah, let me just get this. And
that's a pretty cool app that Apple's releasing for this to kind of, because I feel like there's never really a good app to help create your icons for you.
I agree. Yeah. And if we get the relative path, the dot icon, then this will, and then we basically run pre-build again, and it will correctly link things. So yeah, npx, and if you're using EAS, this would just work by default. So npx expo pre-build iOS. I'm not adding the -- clean, otherwise it would just delete the files of Cocoa Pods, and it would take a while to reinstall.
Yeah, exactly.
So and let me double check. One thing that I can demonstrate is regarding the pre-builds here. I pre-built. I actually, before the live stream, I did 2 builds just to test out the feature, and I think it will be easier for me to show to you guys 2 builds in here for the pizza app. So both of those, the only difference is one has the pre-built enable, and the other one is building from source. So one took, and this is like stuff that really matters, is running Fastlane, which is the step that builds the app. So one took 5 minutes, which is the one with precompiled enabled, and the other one takes 8 minutes. So it's like almost like 37% improvement. Yeah. And
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, that the bigger your app, the better improvements you're going to get there for sure.
Yeah. And this is not like your demo app where you have like 0 libraries, right?
Yeah.
This is an app that has like most of the libraries that you use. It has reanimated, which is the one that's most significant time consumer when building. It has gesture handler, which is the other one that takes a while. So yeah, it's like real world scenario where your app builds are now finishing in the 5 to 6 minutes range.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good, to be honest.
I agree. Did the new icon apply?
Yeah, let's double check this. And no, just a moment. Yeah, we might need to do a clean build. Yeah, so actually it's my fault. I set it as icon, right? It has to be iOS icon, and not icon.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, and I need to actually point to the right file. So yeah, it's the type of thing that it's a bit specific, but you need to read the docs carefully.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
While this is rebuilding, Frank wants to know what's your favorite SDK 54 update, since there's so many, and then one that you may have contributed to.
Yeah. So my favorite it's really niche, I would say. It's my favorite just because it's the thing that I've been working on. But it's the support for custom folder structures when you're using Brownfield. So when you're integrating with Brownfield. So one thing that was really pissing me off is that, let's say that you're a big corp and you want to try out React Native. And in the previous scenario, you would need to move your whole huge app into the Android and iOS folder and have React Native as the wrapper outside. And without that, some scripts would fail and you just wouldn't be able to compile. And it's the type of thing that, if I'm a really big company, it makes no sense to not have that. So we basically, I'm deleting the app here just because sometimes you need to delete it to actually refresh the icon. But it's a type of thing where it's just, it was just intriguing me so much, and we are able to fix it. We basically rewrote the whole documentation on Brownfield, and we are really pushing towards a place where bigger companies can adopt React Native really easily. So that's my favorite feature. But honestly, there are other better features, like everything with liquid glass is super cool. And other.
Yeah, and I also wanted to talk to you about there's other items in there that we're probably not going to be able to get to demo and kind of go through. But can you? One of them is Expo updates. I don't know.
So Expo updates is so basically Kudo has been working on this feature for a while, and we now finally got to a place where you can safely use this. But basically, we are introducing something called channel surfing, which is basically the ability of switching between channels in Expo updates. And just taking a step back, Expo updates is this library that allows you to basically hotfix code without going through the store. So you're able to patch the JavaScript side by pushing an update, just like you would redeploy a website. And before this feature that Kudo added, you would have one specific channel for one app build. So you couldn't test different features through channels. You would either use the rollback or, it would be slightly trickier. But right now, what Kudo added is this function that you can call to change an update channel. And this allows you, for example, to have a different JavaScript bundle for a beta channel where you want your employees to test your app and at the same time, your users are just using the exact same build, but they're running the stable channel. So that's something that's really cool as well. And
I like
yeah,
that. Yeah. If you, instead of using, it's almost like a feature flag
yeah,
you have there,
exactly.
right? So, channel surfing is a great name. I think we talked about it yesterday internally at Infinite Red. It's great name for it. We just kind of get to pick your channel and kind of watch whatever channel you're on. So if you release a new feature, you can hide it behind a channel or like feature flag, and your stakeholders can download your latest app, use that channel specifically, and see the new feature and test it out for you, which is great.
Yeah. So just a quick update on the icon situation. It actually updated, so it's slightly different than the default. It's not exactly what I wanted to do. It did not apply the tint, but yeah, like in here, yeah, we can see it's not the full icon thing that it would be applied. But yeah,
I wonder if it's liquid glass that kind of adds that tint to it.
I think so. Maybe if we change it to the default,
you
and
can
then
see
you get the new app thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
cool.
one more detail, and yeah, just some native directives that you can access and native tooling.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Thank you for that demo. I appreciate it. I think another thing here. Let's stop here. Yeah, was auto linking. I know Gant brought up a funny point. Now, you don't have to be passive aggressive in your README instructions, but I know auto linking is something new in SDK 54. Can you tell us a little bit what that has to?
So yeah, we are changing slightly how auto linking works. It's on our side and also in React Native. So from 0.81.4 onwards, React Native will basically, on iOS, it will allow libraries to basically require dependencies, like peer dependencies and dependency of a library, right? So for example, if you are reanimated, which is a library that depends in this other library called React Native Worklets, by just installing reanimated, you'll also install Worklets and natively, right? Because this used to already happen in the JavaScript side, so NPM already handled that, but on the native side, on the linking, this would not happen. And yeah, this is something that we change it in SDK 54 is the default, but if this causes any issues, there's still a flag where you can use the legacy auto linking. But yeah, this should basically speed up the installs. It should reduce the amount of dependencies that you get installed as well, because then you don't need to install everything that's in your node modules. You'll just install what's actually required. It's really good for monorepos as well.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. I think it helps the developer experience. It's another tool out there where we don't have to worry about, oh, did I install this other package that's required here, right? So I think that's a really cool touch there. Again, if our audience have any questions, I think we're going to start wrapping up here. Gant asked a question that I was going to ask you. Looking to the future, now that 54 is out, what do you want to see in 55? Or like, what is your favorite feature that's didn't quite make it into 54 that you'd like to see in 55?
Yeah, so personally, not a feature. And yeah, like what I would love to see in 55 is the end of the old architecture. So we will be able to reduce our code surface by a lot. But as an end user, I think there's some really cool stuff on Expo updates that will be released, especially on the actual update size. It will be reduced by a lot. So you'll be able to push like a bunch of updates without really worrying about bandwidth consumption, because we'll just use the diffs. I know that React Native itself, it's working on some also pretty cool features, but on the Expo side, let me see. We're still discussing what we'll do on 55, but
So if you go into your meeting with Brent, I assume tomorrow, and Brent's like, okay, what do we want to include in 55 now that we're done with 54? What are you going to say?
yeah, so I know that we want to make, for example, Expo UI stable. I know that. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely better stuff. I know that we are rewriting Expo Go as well. It
Oh,
will
nice.
be, yeah, and hopefully this will make it a bit more. I mean, like it's definitely not unstable, but it will make it even more stable and easier for us to maintain, because it right now it is its own React Native app. So you run React Native apps using a React Native app, and yeah, and then just the upgrade process will be easier. But yeah, like our team is growing. We're releasing a lot of new packages, and yeah, just excited for like for working on a bunch of new things.
Awesome.
Nothing
Yeah.
specific. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see maps out of alpha soon. It's one that
Yes.
I'd like to move away from React Native Maps. I love React Native Maps; does a good job, but I'd like to move to Expo Maps. I got to see Beto's little video that he put out around it, and I thought it was pretty cool. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I'd like to thank you, Gabriel, for coming on. This was awesome. Learned a lot about this release. I'm definitely going to use it soon, as soon as I can. As soon as you guys release it, I'm going to be there to update it. I think to all our listeners, check out Expo's docs, docs.expo.dev. They are probably the best well-written docs out there, in my opinion, that give you a lot of good information. Join their Discord community channel. You go to chat.expo.dev. It's come very handy for me, and been able to get a lot of information from it. This was a great discussion. I think to our audience, thank you so much for coming on and listening. Don't forget to subscribe. And if there's any other topic that you'd like me to cover in the future, I would love to hear from you, and you're going to get some feedback on it so we can kind of address it in a future episode. There's a lot of things out there, and a lot of people have been asking for some fun stuff. So again, thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you all soon.